Hi, how are you?
I'm doing well. How are you today?
Very well, thank you. Now, where are you from?
I'm from Michigan.
And is that where you live now?
I do. I live outside of Metro Detroit, born and raised.
Now, please tell me about your educational career and background.
Oh, all right. So I grew up in Michigan and I attended Michigan State University and studied finance. But I'm a child of the 80s, so I couldn't find a job with my finance degree. So I did what a lot of other unemployed college graduates did. I went to law school. And even while I was in law school, I could see that that was going to be a very hard path to follow. So I hedged my bets and got my MBA at the same time. So I go to law school during the day and business school at night. And while I know that makes me sound like an overachiever, it was really just kind of a reflection of how stagnated the economy had become. So I was really excited when I got the opportunity to join Ford. And I started out in sales. I used to wholesale cars to dealers, but somewhere along the way, I had a really unexpected opportunity to become the corporate futurist. And I almost feel like it was my destiny because I had this really disparate educational background. But finally, I started to be able to apply the things I had learned all into one discipline. So I feel like the luckiest woman in all of Ford.
What is a futurist?
A futurist? It's easier for me to describe what a futurist isn't, and I always like to say it's not someone who predicts the future. You know, I actually find it rather ironic that I spend a great deal of my time trying to remind people that no one can predict the future, and yet we all do it. I mean, we have these underlying assumptions about how we think the future will play out or what the world looks like, and so often it is so deeply rooted in the way that we see the world, we can't even identify what these assumptions are, let alone challenge them. So I think that it would be more appropriate to call me the polite contrarian. My job is to kind of push back against the status quo and try to get people to entertain ideas that are maybe a little less plausible, trying to provoke new thinking.
What's new with Ford these days?
I'm sorry, can you say that again?
I said, what's new with Ford these days?
Oh, well, actually, just yesterday we made a huge announcement that we'll be investing $900 million in one of our plants in Michigan to actually start production of self-driving vehicles.
And there'll be a lot of jobs there. That'll be great.
It will be a lot of jobs, and I think it brings us one step closer to this autonomous future that has seemed to capture the world's imagination.
Now, there's a new report out. Can you please tell me what this is about?
Sure. So this report is our annual trend report, and it's actually the 6th year in which we have made the report. And we're really excited about it because it gives people a glimpse of the types of things that we're monitoring, because we think each of these trends are one step closer to better understanding the forces that will shape consumer values, attitudes, and behaviors.
How is 2018 different from other years?
It is actually quite different. This year is a bit more somber. You know, we held workshops around the world as far as New Delhi, and we tried to get a bunch of different points of views from people that have absolutely nothing to do with the automotive industry. And we came up with these 10 trends, and then we fielded research in 9 different countries. And what we found when we spoke to over 9,000 people, that 2/3 of the people that we spoke to said that they're stressed out. They're worried about the changes that they see happening in the world, leaving them feeling overwhelmed. But the good news is that 3/4 of the people we spoke to said they're actually more engaged and that they individually believe that they can make positive change.
Now, what are some of these 10 trends that you were looking to see?
You know, one interesting one is a trend that we call minding the gap, and it really looks at kind of social, racial, gender, income inequality. You know, we hear oftentimes that 1% of the world's population has more wealth than the entire rest of the world. And that's really a stark contrast in how people are dealing with those types of things. And so accessibility is something that is part of Ford's DNA. I mean, Henry Ford made the Model T. He wanted to create a car that would be accessible to the great masses. And so as we think about our future, we're always thinking about how do we make mobility options accessible. And so as we move forward, we're looking at mobility solutions that aren't just for people who want to own or drive their own vehicle. We're looking at ride sharing, car sharing, even bike rentals.
Now, where could we see this report?
You can go to FordTrends.com.
Now, is there anything else you'd like to add?
Well, I hope that people find it interesting. When we share this information, we always find the feedback is makes our insights even richer. So hopefully people will engage in the dialogue with us.
Well, thank you very much for this information. I wish for the best. 900 million is a wonderful thing.
Thank you, Michelle. I agree.